One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet whom millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
Yes, there really is just one man. One man for this job for the United States of America. The contrast couldn't be clearer. Dementia Joe is not up to the job. It is all Donald Trump's at this point. It's Donald Trump's race to win. When I wrote the words to that intro, I got the song from somebody else, the music that is, but when I wrote the words, I knew it spoke to the guy that Donald Trump is. And then after last Saturday, I could not believe, couldn't even fathom that those words would be so prophetic, that they would be so aptly put about this man called Donald Trump. It is incredible. There is no contrast. There is no choice. This race is effectively over. There's a lot of people out there that don't like me saying that this race is over. I'm going to do another video tomorrow and show you where the polls are. For those of us who look at polls, I'll show you the polls. But I don't even know how relevant the polls are at this point. It's likely Dementia Joe won't even be the candidate that Donald Trump will be running against. The news coming out about Joe at this point is fast and furious, and he's not going to be the likely candidate that opposes Donald Trump. There won't be a September debate, at least not with Dementia Joe in it, and at this point, I don't think Donald Trump needs to debate anybody else. The momentum coming after this RNC convention, especially after tonight's speech, make sure you watch my channel for the live speech tonight, but the momentum that he's building after this RNC, and obviously after last Saturday night, and surviving a unbelievable assassination attempt by no other way but by the grace of God. There are so many people at this point who are realizing that Donald Trump is the guy they need to be voting for. Blacks, Hispanics, whites, women, young people. It is cascading into the landslide that I always have been saying that it would be. I knew there would be no competition from Dementia Joe. None whatsoever. Are they going to try and run somebody else at him? Probably. But it's amazing how things have happened in literally the last 6 or 7 days. But the funny part about this, as I'm about to show you some things that the media are saying and how they're trying to orchestrate this change, is that the entire media, the entire Democrat Party, their machine, is completely dependent upon gaslighting the American public. They expect everyone to swallow what they've been saying. All of a sudden, Dementia Joe has somehow become, infirmed, that he can't continue. They have known this for years. They have hidden him away from everybody. The media is complicit. They have lied to everybody. So right now, as you hear the people in the media and as they're calling for Dementia Joe to be replaced, you have to remember these are the people who said they were fighting for democracy. And at the same time, they are trashing democracy. They don't care about democracy. They care about power. Think about this. If they thought they could win, if they really thought Dementia Joe had any shot of winning, do you think there would have been an assassination attempt on Donald Trump if they felt comfortable that Dementia Joe was going to prevail? So now it's all like, hey, Joe's not feeling well. He ended up testing positive for that C thing, and we're not sure how it's going to be. He's got to go back to Delaware. He's got to recuperate. But in the meantime, we're all calling for his demise. We all want him to leave because they need him to leave. They need him to publicly declare, I'm sick, I can't run. And he actually did that yesterday. He actually put out there, or rather, the young 20-somethings that run his account went out there and put out, I'm sick. That in itself was sick. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But I want to show you some video that basically shows you the evolution in the last 48 hours as to how they're going to get rid of Dementia Joe.
And so it's all about treating people with dignity. And it's about making sure that, look, I mean, for example, look at the heat I'm getting because I named the Secretary of Defense to a black man.
The heat, number one, what heat are you getting? I haven't heard anybody giving you heat. But the black man? The black man. That's what you want to say on national television? You're getting heat because you, the Secretary of Defense, that guy. You mean Lloyd Austin? Yeah, the black man.
I named Ketanji Brown.
Oh, and then he doesn't even get that name right. He's talking about Ketanji Brown Jackson, I assume, the Supreme Court Justice. Come on, Joe. What the hell are you talking about?
Because of the people I've named.
A few moments later.
Regrettably, I was just on the phone with President Biden, and he shared his deep disappointment at not being able to join us this afternoon. The president has been at many events, as we all know, and he just tested positive. So, of course, we understand that he needs to take the precautions.
Now, I spoke about this last night. He was supposed to appear at this event. As he was supposed to appear at this event, everybody was there. All the people were in the audience, teleprompters, everything was set up. And they didn't announce what had happened to him, that he had somehow, miraculously, again got the C until moments before he was to appear at this event. Funny, he wasn't there. They knew all day, supposedly. He takes his physical or whatever they're going to do and test him in the morning. But they waited until the end of the day, right before he was supposed to get on stage, and said, he can't come.
That had been recommended, and he did not obviously want to put anybody at risk.
And so here he is getting on the plane, and it's incredible. This guy can barely get up the stairs. And this is the short stairway, the short stairs to Air Force One. Not even the normal stairs. He had to go in the bottom.
Let's go over to Dana Bash, because I know, Dana, you've got some new details on the political situation that President Biden is facing in the context of this diagnosis.
Now, as you watch these next couple clips, I want you to remember something. Every single one of these people in the media knew who they've been hiding. They understand they've been hiding Biden. Nobody with any degree of intelligence believes that June 27th during the debate was the first time everybody saw what happened to Joe Biden. They all saw it. They all knew. We've seen it. You've seen it. It hasn't. If you have a brain, you understood that this guy had a mental issue of some sort, whether it's Parkinson's or dementia or whatever. We've all seen it. And now the media is looking at things with a different viewpoint and saying, hey, listen, he's got to go. We need to report on this.
So, Dana, what are you learning?
There's a scramble going on right now, both in Wilmington and at the White House, but right now mostly in Wilmington, of course, where the president's campaign headquarters is, because they're trying to figure out how to salvage as much of, if they can do any of, the schedule that the president had planned.
So they did all this, threw everything into complete chaos, saying that this guy has now tested what, don't want to say it. And everything's in chaos all of a sudden. This is exactly what they did in 2020. He campaigned from the basement in the fake stage. They should have all the props still sitting there. But it's not going to work with Donald Trump. And more importantly, it's not going to work on Americans.
If they can do any of it remotely, if he can do anything from his home in Rehoboth, they obviously don't know the answer to that.
Oh, so badly they want to go back to 2020. They want to turn the clock back so badly. They want to be able to just do everything remotely, just phone it in. But after people have seen the RNC, after they have seen Donald Trump get shot and stand up and continue fighting, no one's going to have sympathy for this old guy who supposedly is off his rocker. Like I said, the contrast couldn't be clearer. You would have to be a functional illiterate not to look at these two men, similar in age. One of them is coming back from being shot. Somebody tried to take his life. Forget the injury to his ear. Think about his psyche. Think about what happens when you find out somebody tried to kill you. They didn't try to beat you in a race. They tried to end your life. They tried to take your wife from you, your sons, your daughters, your grandkids. They tried to separate you permanently from everything you hold dear. Remember, everybody has watched these people indict him, impeach him, try to put him in jail, go through case after case, try to drain his bank accounts. And what's so funny is every single thing made him stronger. Everybody sees that. Many people admire that. Wow, this guy didn't give up. He just kept fighting. He went to court after court after court hearing. He sat there, as he said, in a cold icebox court. I'm still here. He watched you try to fine him $450 million, and he kept, you're not going to beat me. As I said in my open, in that song, one man who obviously had some help, and then on top of all of that, when you couldn't take his money, when you couldn't take his freedom, they tried to take his life. And what did he do there? The same thing he's been doing the entire time. And then defiant said, fight. I'm not giving up. You're not taking me out like that. What do you think that did to the media? What do you think it did to Joe Biden and his people? What do you think it did to many Democrats? It completely broke them, completely devastated them. It completely obliterated them. And now you got the media acting like they're watching a funeral.
Primarily because they're not going to know how he feels. But the hope inside the campaign headquarters is that they can at least salvage some communication between the president and voters.
Nobody wants to hear from him. What do you mean salvage? You're telling me you're running a presidential election campaign and you're using the words like salvage? Dude, it's over. It's completely over. You got no support. You got no money. You only have basically people who are nuts trying to prop you up. That in the media, of course.
Voters who he desperately needs to continue to connect with.
You hear these words? Salvage, desperate, desperation. These are words that are being associated with a presidential election campaign. Desperation. That is not good for people to hear, even on CNN.
I cannot underscore what David Chalian stated earlier enough, which is the feeling is, are you kidding me? This is the absolute last thing that they need. And that there is definitely a feeling that President Biden and the campaign around him just can't catch a break right now.
They're looking for a Hail Mary. And they thought, that's the funny thing. They thought they got the Hail Mary on Saturday. It's 3 seconds left. You're down by 5 or 6. What do we got to do? We're on a 10-yard line. Okay, let's get somebody on the roof and take a shot. Desperation, salvage, trying to figure out anything they can do. That tells you there's nothing they can do. They're hoping to do something that is completely against the will of the American people who supported him. They're hoping basically to get him out the race and try somebody else. Why? Because they're about to lose everything. The presidency, the Senate, the House, dog catchers in certain districts, they're gonna lose it all. And that's why they're really desperate. That's what's really going on.
Because this was the moment, especially as this convention comes to an end tomorrow, and the focus hasn't really been totally away from President Biden, but it's been away a little bit. But the focus is going to turn even more to President Biden and what is going on with him, that they needed him to be out, to be robust, and to be campaigning. And that's not going to happen, especially given, Aaron, the fact that the clamoring from House Democrats in particular, but also other elected officials.
Where was the clamoring 2 years ago? Where was the clamoring a year ago? Every single one of these people knew what was going on. There is no surprise here. Remember that as you're watching these coverages, there's no surprise here. We all knew it. They all knew it. Now they're like, oh shit, everybody else knows it. What are we going to do? And that's what their problem is. That's what they're really concerned with.
It's not going away. And it is becoming even more intense as they get more and more polling, and they are pressuring the campaign and the president's inner circle to really try to take seriously their concerns, that it's not just about the president, but about their political viability in the House and the Senate, maybe.
Oh, it's not really just about Joe. It's about us, too. I mean, how they say a rising tide lifts all boats, where a sinking tide, it kind of can hurt as well. No one's going to want to be associated with you people.
Even governor's mansions.
CNN has just posted a new report, and this adds to what we talked about at the top of our coverage this evening, reporting first from ABC News, then the Washington Post, NBC News confirming some parts of it, but not all. But CNN is now citing 4 sources, saying former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has privately told President Joe Biden in a recent conversation that polling shows that President Biden cannot defeat Donald Trump, and that
he can't win. That's what's causing all of this. This is the problem. They now realize what some of us have been saying for some time. I've been saying it for probably months, that it was a landslide. I've been telling you mathematically with what I've been seeing, he can't win. Forget the national polls when they show, oh, they're only running 2 points apart. No. Look at Georgia, Michigan, Virginia, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada. Look at those states. Those are the states that are going to elect the next president of the United States. And the problem that they're having, and I've said it many times, is too many black people have jumped ship. They're used to getting 80 and 90%. Now it's down to 68, I've heard. They've lost like 32 points in the black market. They've lost about the same in the Hispanic market. Mathematically, you can't make that up. And there's no way you can get all these newcomers to the poll to try and make up that difference. I've been telling you that for probably a couple months. And the news is now saying, finally they're coming out publicly with it. And they just said, he can't win. I don't know who you're going to put in that would. Kamala's not going to make up that ground. Why don't you just wave the white flag and just let Joe finish it out?
Biden could destroy Democrats' chances of winning the House in November if he continues seeking a second term.
So you're not going to win the presidency. Now you're going to, quote, destroy the chances of winning the House. Yeah, you're pretty much going to destroy the chances of winning the House. Duh. This isn't a surprise. They act like it's a surprise, but it's not.
Again, this is according to CNN. This is not confirmed by NBC, but they are citing 4 sources, which is why I'm bringing this to you. Again, the earlier reporting in this evening was that the top 2 elected Democrats in Congress, the Democratic leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, and the Democratic leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, have both reportedly spoken directly one-on-one with President Biden.
Isn't it funny how Nancy Pelosi herself and Chuck Schumer just a week ago don't want you to remember when they said Joe's fine, he's going to win? I'm just waiting for James Clyburn to come out and cry, because at this point he's the one voice left that needs to come out and go, Joe, you're done. They've all seen this data. I've seen it. You've seen it. We've seen it for weeks. You have seen the black vote moving in droves away from Dementia Joe. You've seen the Hispanic people moving in droves away from him. This isn't a surprise. Why did they let it get to this point? That's the other problem. I can't answer that. That's just complete stupidity.
Telling him that he cannot win, and that at the top of the ticket that the Democrats are staring down the barrel of losing the House and the Senate, and that he should effectively pass.
Staring down the barrel is not maybe the term you want to use after Saturday. Maybe you might want to pick your words, Rachel. You're supposed to be a top-flight journalist. You're supposed to be one of the best talking heads out there. And what did you just say? Staring down the barrel, of a gun, because you're going to lose the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Yep, that's probably what's going to happen. But you guys can't even. Now you are. Now reality is surely setting in.
The torch that he should leave the top of the ticket, not head up the ticket heading into November, allow another Democrat, presumably his vice president, to take over the ticket, not only for the prospect of beating Donald Trump, but also so Democrats have a chance at the House and the Senate. Again,
you hearing these words? Again, I'm a wordsmith. I like to hear what people say. Desperation, a chance, a Hail Mary, maybe, hopefully, something. Those are all indicative of how bad things are right now. They've seen the internal data. They saw what happened. Trump survived. You're toast.
And this is now Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, and Nancy Pelosi, which is a different quality of conversation in terms of the people involved in their influence in this party than the other intra-party Democratic conversations that we have been reporting on for these last couple of weeks since the debate.
Sharer, he's a serious reporter. He has good sourcing. I want to read from him directly. Former President Barack Obama has told...
All right, so now Barack Obama, in addition to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, now Barack Obama, the effective shadow president at this point, now he's chiming in publicly as well by talking to the Washington Post.
Old allies in recent days that President Biden's path to victory has greatly diminished, and he thinks the president needs to seriously consider the viability of his candidacy. And here's the sourcing. Multiple people briefed on his thinking. This does not show up by accident, Emily. He has greenlighted, in my opinion, as someone who's worked in press, his aides to share this with the Washington Post.
Which is a crucial sea change, Kaylee. And actually before, Marie, when you were talking about it, in my head I was like, no, he doesn't need to come out and say it, because he did it non-verbally. When he guided the president off the stage, he showed the world the president's frailty. He showed the world that Barack Obama was still the elder of the party, although Marie...
He sure did. He didn't have to grab him like that, but he wanted people to see that. And then, of course, George Clooney came out, who threw the party and said, we need to get rid of this guy.
That made me feel like I'm an ancient. But at the end of the day, we are now seeing the materialization of the apparitions, right? Because prior to this, for example, as former Speaker Kevin McCarthy said, well, Pelosi controls everyone, right? So Schiff coming out and saying that, that meant Pelosi told him to do so. Well, then we have reporting that Pelosi herself is speaking face-to-face with Biden and saying it's time to give this a rest. So what we are...
There's news reporting today that Nancy and Dementia Joe actually got into a shouting match on the phone to the point where she told him, get off the phone. I don't need to talk to you. Let me talk to your chief of staff, this guy Mike Donnell, and talk some sense into him. Maybe Mike understands data. You don't understand, Joe. You're screwed. You're done. And you're going to screw the rest of us. Unbelievable.
What we are seeing is those unseen hands that we knew guiding those forces, writing the letter for George Clooney, telling him to come out. All of those forces are all of a sudden now saying, I'm putting my name directly out there. That represents a fundamental current change. And I think at the end of the day, we are now seeing Biden against the world.
Now, this is something that just blew me away. I saw Van Jones say this, and I realized at this point he was sending a signal as well. Van Jones goes on last night as they're covering RNC, and Van Jones says this. This is striking.
A bullet couldn't stop Trump. A virus just stopped Biden. You've got the nominees of this party getting their butts kissed. Biden's getting his butt kicked by his own party. The Democrats are coming apart. The Republicans are coming together.
Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States.
That's where things are headed. That's where things are as of right now in mid-July. It's a landslide of epic proportion. Dementia Joe's going to get wiped out. But I have one problem I want to close with. And that one problem is this. Have you noticed the people calling for Dementia Joe to step aside? Never mind their threat of democracy that they tried to put on Trump. They are completely eviscerating democracy. Millions of people voted for this guy who you already knew, before he went into the primary season, had deficient mental capacity. But who's going to step in at this point besides somebody power hungry like Kamala who thinks she could possibly be president? Who else would risk their political capital getting in office, having it handed to them? Hillary, maybe? I don't know. But here's the real problem with the Democrat Party, which is the same problem with the Republican Party. Unfortunately for the Democrats, Trump's taken over the Republican Party. On the Democrat side of things, if I'm a prominent Democrat, I don't know, I've heard that they might try to bring RFK in. If I am a prominent Democrat, I wouldn't mind it if all of you lost. I wouldn't mind it if Pelosi was gone and Schumer was gone and AOC was gone and Jim Clyburn was gone. Maybe it's time for a wholesale cleansing of the Democrat Party. You're just as old, in terms of talking about Clyburn and Pelosi and possibly Schumer, as Joe is. You guys have basically set up shop there for 30, 40 years. What candidate in their right mind wants to step into that hornet's nest? You deserve to be completely eviscerated by Donald Trump. You deserve to be completely antiquated, put on a shelf in a pickle jar by Donald Trump. You don't deserve to be in office. Everything you've tried to do for the last 4 years has been to take this country in a way that most people don't want to take it. You've allowed inflation to run crazy. You never said anything about that. You've allowed tens of millions of newcomers to storm through. Never said anything about that. You've allowed crime in the inner cities to run rampant and then tell the FBI not to report the data so that the media could go and say crime's not that bad. Every single thing you guys have done has been to the detriment of the American people and to your own constituents. I say rest in peace. And I don't mean that literally. I'm not hoping anybody passes, even though you guys do. We've seen what you've said about Donald Trump. I mean rest in peace as a party. I hope you guys never see the light of day in terms of political power ever again. You deserve what you're going to get come this November. Every single office that you lose, you deserve it wholehearted. And unfortunately for you, there's only one man right now who can change America. And that man is Donald Trump.